Hey, Jane, welcome to the NTM Growth Marketing Podcast. It's an honor to be speaking with you today.
Hey, it's lovely to be here. Thanks for having me.
Before we jumped on, I will admit I checked out your LinkedIn profile and you have a very extensive resume of marketing-oriented roles at some pretty amazing companies. And I do want to add in, I saw you had a 4.0 GPA at both of your universities.
Wow, yeah, that's embarrassing. It's been a while. I don't know how relevant that is, but I was a studious gal for sure.
Was it always a marketing focused background, even into undergrad?
No, so my undergrad was actually psychology,
Mhm.
and I studied at Queen's University. Go Gales for any Canadians out there. And then I thought I wanted to be a librarian. So I went and got my
Wow.
master's in library and information science. I think the through line for me with marketing is just about information. How do people take it in? How do you get it out to people in the most impactful way? So I'm not where I thought I would be from those degrees, but I can certainly say they have helped.
Help me bridge the gap a little bit from librarian to working at Twitter.
Yes, great question. So I went to Simmons for my master's in library science, and I had an amazing course on corporate librarianship, which I didn't even know was a thing. All sorts of companies have in-house librarians and knowledge managers. And
Mm.
right out of school, I ended up working at an advertising agency called Arnold, which is now part of the Havas Group, which is this huge advertising powerhouse. And I was working in their strategy group.
Mm.
And so I was working on a lot of new business, learning a lot about marketing and advertising. And we were pitching to all of these new companies. We were pitching content marketing like, hey, this is a new thing. You have to have all this content. And I had always been a writer and a blogger. And so a light bulb went off for me that, oh, I can get paid to do that kind of stuff. And I happened to have a mentor that I worked with who made the move from Boston to San Francisco to work at Twitter. She knew I was interested in this sort of thing, and there was an opening on her team, and I jumped at the chance to make
Mm.
a pretty big shift. But definitely the grounding I got at the agency helped me to be more of an in-house marketer.
Tell us a little bit then of what exactly led to you working at Mighty Networks. I know there was a few more roles in between. I just wanted to bring up Twitter has, we won't go down the Elon rabbit hole right now, but Twitter's everywhere. But how did you end up at Mighty Networks a few years later?
Yeah, no, definitely. We will sidestep the Twitter conversation, but I had a great time there. So it's interesting. There is a through line between my work at Twitter and coming to Mighty because it was at Twitter that I was really introduced to entrepreneurs as a
Mhm.
as a target market. I worked on the small and medium business team, people using Twitter ads to grow these businesses from zero to these like pretty huge and
Mhm.
wonderful businesses, changing their lives in many ways. And I fell in love with that entrepreneur target, the creators. And, at Mighty, we're focused on entrepreneurs, creators, anybody who wants to create a new kind of business. And it's just so inspiring to me to be back with that audience because every single business that's ever existed has started as a small business, has started as like one person has an idea, does a thing. And so at Twitter, we were empowering that through digital advertising. Now I think the market, the ecosystem, what you need to do to be successful has changed so much. So I'm stoked and I jumped at the chance to come to Mighty and help people think about a new way of building a different kind of
Mhm.
business through our platform.
So let's dive a little bit into Mighty Network. Can you start off? What is your role? What is Mighty Network in a little bit more detail? Mighty Networks, plural. And tell us a little bit about your day to day.
Yeah. So I am the SVP of marketing at Mighty. We are a cultural software platform. And what that means is that we empower anyone to create a thriving community, membership, course, combination of the above with their own unique culture under their own brand. So that's the elevator pitch for what we enable people to do. And that takes so many different forms, right? We have networks that are built around professional interest and entrepreneurship and becoming a better leader or really going and up leveling your career. We also have networks built around Web3 and
Mm.
NFTs, around quilting and crafting. It's a lot of different niches. Health and wellness is another big one. And so it's empowering people to build these businesses and these cultures off of things that they're already really passionate about and feel a real strong sense of purpose around. And as part of the day to day, I manage a large team. You know, large is actually relative compared to like working at Twitter and stuff, but like a large team, we are focused on marketing and getting the word out. So a large team of channel
Sometimes just
managers.
managing one person can feel like a large team. So
Totally. I've been really grateful that, I've been at Mighty for 2 years now. I started with a very small team and we've been able to build it up. So now I'm feeling like, yes, like we are building this marketing engine. And it's really split in between channel marketers, so people focused on a really specific channel or a couple of channels, and then brand designers. We have taken great care with our visual brand, trying to stand out. We try lots of new things, lots of experiments. And so those are kind of the two functions. And we also work really closely with developers, right? It's a rare marketing function now that is so totally divorced from, the website you manage, the experimental platform you use to run A/B tests. So work with some fantastic developers and product managers as well.
I was listening to a podcast yesterday, actually, with the CEO of Mind Valley. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them. They're in the ed tech world. And what he said is what actually is a differentiator between Mind Valley and other ed tech companies is community. And how they're actually bringing people now that people can come back together. I don't know if COVID's still around or not at this moment or when it will be this podcast released, but nevertheless, he focuses on community. And you mentioned a few times how community is so important to your organization. Can you speak a little bit deeper into just why community is important?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this could take the whole podcast because I feel so strongly about this topic. But there's a couple of different things. So in general, community is important to everybody right now. You mentioned COVID. I think that was a real turning point for people realizing how essential community is in times when we feel isolated, right? You need to have community around you to be more resilient. The world is also so rapidly changing. And there have been tons of studies, tons of evidence that community, having a strong community, or ideally communities, because we don't all fit into one little box, right? Like you might be a part of several tight knit communities. Having those around you is the best way to navigate a rapidly changing, very uncertain world, which I think we are all feeling that right now. So, just on a personal level, community is so essential, and it also it makes us better. It's the best way to learn. I don't know about you. I'm sure this is something that the Mind Valley individual was thinking about, but I've signed up for a lot of online courses where I'm supposed to watch a bunch of videos and they just kind of hang out there
Right.
without a community, without a cohort around you, rallying you, holding you accountable. Even when you think about fitness goals, right? If you have a running buddy, you are going to do those training runs. So community is the best way to just get better results in your own life. So for anybody, community is essential. When you're thinking about building a business, communities are the best businesses to build. So at Mighty, over the last 6 months, even with all the economic uncertainty that I know a lot of businesses are feeling, we have seen the amount of money our hosts, what we call our customers, making go up and up and up. And it surprised even us, right? People think, oh, well, do I want to subscribe to a community, right? Recurring revenue, another reason why it's a great business. Do I want to subscribe to a community when I already have Hulu and Spotify, right? They kind of start to think about it in terms of subscription services. If you are getting results from a community, if you are having your career changed, if you are having your fitness, your mental health goals met through this community, you're not thinking, should I cancel the community or should I cancel Hulu? Right? They are different categories.
Right.
So that data has been really, empowering to our hosts and also our team, and just like, wow, we are building something really effective for people. And then there's, to start a community-based business, you don't need to set up drop shipping, right? You don't need to buy a bunch of inventory. It's a different kind of business with low startup costs. What you really need is a strong purpose, a motivation for why you're doing this thing. So I'm not surprised. I think more and more people and companies will start to think about, how do I bring community more into my business? Because it is just a muscle that pays dividends time over time again, and makes you as a company, as a brand, as an entrepreneur, much more resilient to weather changes. And
Mhm.
it feels good. It feels good to help people's lives improve, which is what community does.
So when I've been in conversations with people who have, let's just call it a subscription service,
Yeah.
and it gets too into LTVs, average life they spend with you, and you're kind of dehumanizing that person into just a number who stays in your network and makes you so much
Yeah.
over like 6 months, whatever it is. If we try to just humanize that relationship more, what encourages people to stay in that community for a longer period of time versus like they were inspired at the moment and then 30 days later they're off to the next thing?
I love this question because you're so right. And at Mighty, we give you all the data. We have like the analytics. We have built out that part of the product. You can find all that out. But you are so correct. That's such a limiting way to think about things. And you probably will have more churn if you are thinking about that
Mhm.
kind of gamesmanship around the numbers. So when we think about cultural software, it has four components, and they work together to create this really long-term, fruitful relationship that not only keeps people in your community, but has them inviting other people, which is like the key
Mhm.
to this viral growth. So one is content. You have to be able to provide some kind of content to inspire people, to influence them, to introduce a new idea to them. Now, social media, keyword media, has tons of content, right? So people can get sidetracked by that. But the problem with the content on social is that you can get inspired 50 times a day. It kind of drops you on the floor. Then you get distracted by something else, right? There's nowhere to go with it. So the second component of cultural software is courses. Courses help you apply what you have gotten excited about, help you apply that new idea and start to make a change in your life. So even with those two components, you can see how, okay, they're getting inspired, then they're starting to do something with it. Then we have this component of commerce, right? Paid memberships, paid courses, token gate your community if you want, right? We have Web3 capabilities. The thing about commerce, it is not just so that you as the entrepreneur, as the creator, can make money, though of course we want to make sure people understand this is valuable work you're doing and bringing people together. The key with commerce, and we see it time and time again, is people pay attention to what they are paying for. So it helps them focus and prioritize. In fact, of all the networks on Mighty, you can have free ones, you can have freemium, you can have totally paid ones. We looked at the data. Paid memberships have 50% more engagement than
Mm.
free or freemium because people
Can you
are
explain
locked
why?
in,
Can you
because they're
go
paying
into the
attention.
psychology of that?
Yeah, of people pay attention to what they pay for.
Right. Going back to your psychology undergrad,
Oh
like,
man, I gotta pull up that 4.0 GPA. Well, I think it's really simple, right? It's perceived value is part
Mhm.
of it. If you give something away for free, people value it less.
Mhm.
It is also, I think, the psychology of the host who is charging for something. They're incentivized to make it worthwhile, right? So we always tell our host, "Oh, what should I charge?" And of course, you can look at, if you're a health and wellness community, like what people are spending on a trainer or something else, right? You can look at comparisons, but you also need to look at, what do you have to charge and get paid to put in the work to make it awesome, right?
Mhm.
So I think there's a psychology around, if people are showing up and they're paying $40 a month for a membership here, which is the average that we see across paying networks on Mighty, I'm going to make a really awesome premium program. And I'm not going to worry about, how do I keep the free lurkers happy and engaged?
Sure.
That's a sucker's choice of being like, oh, I got to keep these free people and then I got to keep these paid people, because they may be totally different people, right? The people who show up and subscribe to your free YouTube channel, they may not be the people who are going to end up paying for your community, right?
Mhm.
You may get some of them, but it could be a very different mindset. But yeah, we have found that people pay attention to what they pay for. And then after commerce, the fourth component of cultural software is community. And so going back to like the question around like LTV and churn, when people are in a community and not only are they getting that value from you as the host that you've brought people together, but they're connecting with other members, they're forming real relationships. Like we have seen this, they are forming real relationships, they are pushing each other to get better. People outside of that community also start to notice, they become your evangelists, not in a like pushy selling way, but people are like Andrew, what has changed for you? Like you are showing up in these conversations, you're more confident, you're more dynamic, whatever the results are that you're getting from the community, and people want to talk about it. This is not like those scary messages we've all gotten on Facebook from, our high school connections that are like, hey, I found a new business opportunity. This is not the like MLM selling where they're incentivized because they're going to get a cut of some pyramid scheme. This is about people internalizing the purpose that you started your community with and feeling so strongly about it and seeing this incredible transformation in their own life that they're happy to just talk about that experience. And so when you get people through those four things, churn is almost off the table. We see really high retention. It's not nothing, but like if you have a strong purpose and you carry it through those four things, it's pretty incredible. And which is why if you have a huge audience on social media, it's not necessarily obvious, like I'm going to make a community about this and like I'm going to get a certain percentage of those people to come over. You have to think about it in a different way because it's not just a numbers game.
Mm-hmm. So let's say you are that Instagram influencer who's amassed a large community, and maybe you're not even monetizing it in the sense of it's
I'd say you'd amass an audience, not a community.
Okay,
important
that's a great
term.
differentiator.
Yeah.
So you have that audience, but you want to create a community on Mighty. What are some of the first steps you need to be thinking about to make that jump?
Great question. Why? It can't just be, oh, I should do this, right? Like, why? What is the motivation for bringing people together off of social media in this special place? What is the culture you want to create? And specifically, when we think about why, we use this framework, this term called the big purpose. Who is coming together, right? Who from this massive audience where you really probably don't know exactly who they are. Like you may have some demographics from Instagram or something, but like, why did they click follow, right? You need to think about who this person is. The most powerful moment to get somebody in a community is when they are in a moment of transition because they are navigating that change that I talked about earlier, right? So like if you are a yoga influencer, you have a huge following on Instagram, you show off a pose a day, something like that. Who is the person who needs your community the most right now? Maybe it's somebody who's just getting started, right? They're like, I've never done yoga before. I follow you. I'm intimidated, but like, I want to make a change in my life. I want to be more mindful. I want to start my practice. That's a great transition. Like they want to go from A to B. So what is the transition? What are the results they're going to get as being a part of your community, right? Again, going back to like content, courses, commerce, it can't just be that they're going to get the same stuff you're showing on Instagram. They're going to get a pose a day. It's just going to be in a different place. It's like, no, what are the results? Like, are they going to have a daily yoga habit after 6 months in your community? Are they going to have more energy? Are they going to sleep better? Like really get specific about the results. And finally, what are they going to do together? Not just what are you going to tell them, right? Which I think when you're an influencer, a lot of it is like, I need to create content. I need to tell people, I need to show them what to do. Instead, it's like, well, you're bringing people together. What are they going to do together, right? Are they going to do monthly yoga challenges and cheer each other on? Are they going to co-create an awesome Spotify playlist to like do yoga to, right? There's so many really interesting, fun, big and small things that people can do together. And the beauty of that, when I think about influencers who have been conditioned to just be on this stage putting out content constantly, I think the latest from TikTok is you're supposed to post like 4 times a day, which is like
that's a lot.
It's a lot. Have you ever been to a dinner party and the person who invited you, the host, literally just talks for 3 hours?
Right.
Because if so, like, I am so sorry because that sounds horrible. And people think about like, oh, I'm bringing people together and I'm just going to be the person who talks for 3 hours. It's like, no, you are the host. You are there to make the connections. You want to go to that dinner party where I'm like, Andrew, like, have you met Denise? You guys have so much in common. Or like,
Mhm.
Jessica, like, come hang out with Jamie. She's working on the same thing as you. It's just that is the role. So if you are that Instagram influencer, think about your big purpose. What are people going to do together? What's the transition they're in? And then the activities are not what content are you going to produce? It's what are you going to facilitate between people? And so that starts the shift in thinking, which I think can be really powerful. And I hope get people excited about it, just new
Mhm.
way of doing things.
If we were to look at Mighty and your own marketing, can you tell us a little bit about the mediums you're invested in,
Yeah. And
either online or off?
I do not think this will be a shock when I say we are invested in community for our marketing. And it may seem self-serving, but we have our own community, right? It is
Mhm.
called Mighty Community. It's free because we are not trying to make the community a business. We just want it to be open. We share resources for uh, anybody who is community curious, who's like, I kind of think I want to do this, but I'm not sure how, or like, I'm not sure exactly what my purpose is with community. So I want to take people on that journey and provide the support, not just with our own resources, but the accountability and support from other people on the same journey. There's about 75,000 people in it, which is like pretty
Wow.
cool. It's grown a lot in the last year. Yeah, it's actually probably doubled in the last year. Um, as we've just seen more and more people become curious about what is it like to build a community, right now in the world. And not only is it a fun marketing channel for us, right? Like we like to have that face-to-face interaction with our customers and our potential customers. It's proven to be incredibly fruitful. It's a huge source of revenue, which is the KPI that I am most accountable for and that I watch the most. It's a large source of revenue, people coming in through that channel, being
Can I ask a
inspired.
quick question to
Yeah.
make sure I understood that correct? Is so your community is free, but are you saying the revenue is from them signing up to become the membership, the courses? Is that what you mean?
It's an attribution channel to our platform.
Okay.
So we can see if people join Mighty Community, do they then go on to purchase our software?
Okay,
So
awesome.
it's yeah, in the same way, we would attribute a sale to Google search ad. We can attribute
Mhm.
it to Mighty Community, which is really fantastic. And so it also is a source of revenue because we sell premium courses in it. So we do have that
Mhm.
commerce component. But really, it's about empowering people to take the next step and make their community real with cultural software with Mighty. So the amount of revenue we've driven through the community has been incredible. And of course, we see that in other brands using Mighty for customer communities. Also see that as a trend. In addition to community as a channel, we also think about organic social. How are we telling stories out in the world? But we're not as focused on organic social necessarily
Mhm.
because we found that, again, it's the problem everybody has, right? It's really noisy, it's distracting.
Right.
So we focus more on like quality over quantity and like trying to hammer certain messages home versus like having to be on all platforms, all channels at every time.
I interviewed the CEO of Bigger Pockets. If you're familiar with that real estate community, I'll bring it back to community. Their real estate community, they have so many resources with podcasts, courses, books.
Cool.
And so he was telling me someone typically hangs out in their ecosystem for a year of just gathering content and information. Has buying a real estate property is a very large investment for most people. In terms of kind of how long people stay in your community and some of the free stuff until they're ready to purchase. How do you think about that, of providing that education and content until you build enough rapport with them, or maybe even confidence that they can be a community leader? Can you tell us a little bit more about that and how you think about
Yeah,
that?
absolutely. I would say we do have a longer customer journey for sure. The main difference, there are people who move really quickly, and typically there are
Mhm.
people who have built community on another platform and are just ready to migrate. So we see a
Mhm.
lot of people who migrate from Slack, Discord, Kajabi. And so they're typically really fast because they're like,
Mhm.
I know how to do this. I have a business, I have a proven business model. I'm just looking for the right fit. Cultural software, Mighty, awesome. And they go quickly. People who are community curious at the very top of the funnel for us, you use the word confidence. I think that's exactly it. They're like, this is going to be hard. I'm a
Mhm.
little scared. I've never done this before. They still think it's going to be all on them, right? Like, I need to be ready. We have people who say, oh, I'm interested, but I need to film my 45-hour long professionally produced course videos before I can even like think
Mhm.
about it. So our re-education process in Mighty Community can definitely take 6 months to a year. We hear from our customer post-purchase surveys that typically it's I first heard about Mighty, several months to a year ago, and
Mhm.
then they just purchased. So we kind of welcome that. I mean, of course, I would love people to just show up and be ready immediately. But I think the understanding that we're building a new category, we're introducing new concepts. We want you to be successful and not start immediately, feel like you have no support, you don't know what to do, and just churn. It's much better for
Mhm.
us if you're feeling excited and empowered. So that's kind of the vibe we try to do with all the education. Education first, software second.
Um, how do you bring people into the top of funnel? You said organic social isn't a big thing for your organization. Is it advertising? Is it affiliates? Is it like a very robust referral program? Can you share a little bit more on that?
Yeah, great question. So I would say organic social isn't a huge thing. I think it's really important in terms of like our outbound stuff.
Mhm.
We do very little paid, very little
Mhm.
paid. Um, uh, Organic search, really big for us. We have built an incredible library of awesome search articles. We're always trying to stay one step ahead of like, a great example. You mentioned Twitter earlier. We've had our article up around like what is Mastodon, like for a long time because we know there's interest there, and people who are looking for a Twitter alternative may actually be looking for community and cultural
Mhm.
software. So we try to stay ahead of the trends with search, and SEO has been a really valuable channel for us, um, which has been great. We also, have an incredible word of mouth and referral engine, not just for hosts telling other hosts, but the beauty of our business is hosts have members, and
Mhm.
members become really curious about the communities they're in. What are they built on? They get inspired of like, I want to do that thing that you're doing. And so we have a large number of members like clockwork every single month who are like, I am ready to try this. And so I feel really grateful to spend a lot of my time thinking about how do we optimize these organic channels, and how do we get members feeling really excited about the product and what we can do. And our hosts and networks do a ton of the work for us, which is so cool. I'm spending much less of my time thinking about how do I optimize every little dollar of paid spend, because we've just seen so much more ROI
Mhm.
from the organic stuff. And we are even thinking much more top of funnel than we ever have before. By the time this comes out, we have an amazing book that's going out from our CEO, Gina Bianchini, called Purpose,
Mhm.
which is like really high level, right? If you don't know what your purpose is and you want to find it and make it matter, we can start there with those people. And then maybe in 2 years, they're ready to come to Mighty and like cultural software. So we're trying to move even further out into top of funnel with things like the
Mhm.
book
I love that.
and even potentially events. Yeah, we're really excited about it.
Are you thinking of doing in-person events for your community?
Yes, yes. And by the time this is live, we will have done an in-person event, our first post-COVID
Awesome.
in-person event, which we're really excited about. Also around this idea of purpose. You know, we've empowered our hosts for a long time. We have events in the platform, you can do them virtually. And we also, you can organize an event in person through Mighty. So it works both ways. And so we're really excited to do more events, both with hosts, bringing them together to share stories, to share best practices, but then also with people who are interested in, again, like finding their purpose. I think there are more and more people out today who want to do something impactful that matters and want alternatives to the options in front of them. So how we bring those people together and get them thinking about kind of designing these different futures is really, really exciting for us. So I think more in person to come.
So when I think of business pitches or software companies, you'll see that standard checklist of like, we do all of these things and our competitors only do one.
Yeah.
And so there are other platforms that are similar but different. Kajabi, you mentioned Discord, Slack, maybe even Twitter, just looking at the comment thread. So why would someone use Mighty over some of these other instruments that are online?
Love this question. So Mighty's the only place that has cultural software. Important, different category. Not social media, not chat. Discord is awesome. I use it with some of my friends. When you think about
Mhm.
bringing strangers together to like get results and move towards a purpose, chat like with funny emotes and gifs, not necessarily the best medium for that. So different category. Mighty is really flexible in that you can have a space, no code container, and you can create the experience and culture you want in it. So if you want to have
Mhm.
chat and events, cool. If you want to have a feed, right? If your people are like, I don't want chat, I'm over Discord, I want a feed, I want more structured stuff, I want to have a course, you can do that. So the flexibility that we spent the last few years building and fine tuning, I think now is the moment for it when there are a lot of companies that have really gone all in on one medium of communication and one medium of how your community is going to come together.
Mhm.
And with Mighty, we recognize that you're building something unique, right? It's got to be your brand, it's got to be flexible, and it's got to give you the options to create the culture you want to create. And so I feel really confident going into 2023 and with all the momentum around community that we're incredibly differentiated
Mhm.
at a time when people are looking for solutions like this. And of course, you want to go to our pricing page. We got the long features list too, right? But as a marketer, it's thrilling to feel like you're a little bit outside of the feature war with like all the crazy comparison tables because you're
Right.
just doing something different.
Mhm.
And so I think we're at that moment. You know, set a reminder, check back with me in 1 year, but feeling pretty good about it.
On a personal level, are there any communities that you're deeply passionate about? And can you share why you keep on coming back to those communities?
Ooh, I love this question. Yeah. So I am in the hula community. I mentioned yoga before.
Mhm.
Um, this is a YouTube creator, Adrian, Yoga by
Yoga
Adrian.
with
She's been on,
Adrian?
yeah, Yoga with
My
Adrian.
fiance does her stuff I don't say every night, that would be an exaggeration. If Laura, if you're listening to this, I don't want you to come back a few times a week.
Laura, I'll see you in Pula. So she has a community on Mighty.
Mm.
She's on our enterprise tier. She has her own branded app. So you go to the app store, you search Kula, you're going to find this community. And for me, it was the first example of a community where I really saw that through line between more passive engagement with a topic like
Mhm.
yoga, right? And to me, passive is like watching the YouTube video, thinking to myself, I should do this, like just never doing it. Whereas in the community, and they do a lot of challenges right? Like the
Mhm.
30-day yoga challenge. Um, I was able to make the connection between like, oh, this is a virtual space, but where there's a bunch of people doing this together. Like it felt like a community much more than like comments online or something did, right?
Mhm.
So for me, um, that's both like a community I love to be a part of, but also just like such a perfect example of the difference that I hadn't even really realized before being in this space of like an audience versus a community and like kind of what you can do
Mhm.
together. Um, and that one actually happens to be free. So anybody out here wants to do a headstand with me, come on into Kula. Maybe your fiance and I can DM in there. Um, but I love honestly, I love the weird communities on Mighty. I love to see the niches. They don't always make it into like our case studies every time. But I was out to dinner with my mom the other day. In her mid 70s. Sorry, mom, blowing up your spot. And obviously knows where I work, knows what I do, but is not super into technology in any way or startups or SaaS or anything. And she was like, "Oh, I'm in a Mighty Network." I'm like, "What?" Like, but she is in a Mighty Network for quilters, right? There is this thriving quilters network called the Quilty Nook by this guy Zach, who's incredible. And just the fact that like my mom can be in a community, get some really awesome and empowering out of it, find other people, and then I can be in a community. Then we have like Web3 communities, like it's just this
Mhm.
vibrancy that I think a lot of us have been missing of like people are in like 4 or 5 communities they feel really passionate about and that reflect different aspects of themselves versus we're all in the same feed. We are all
Mhm.
doom scrolling in the same feed. That's just a world I am over. I want to be broken out into these amazing, incredible, vibrant, technicolor worlds and be in several of them. And so I love seeing those glimmers of light out there, which is
Mhm.
exciting.
I have a few questions left, and this first one is, can you share a story about a marketing fail and the lesson you learned through
Mm.
that? And I say this because one of the elements that I love about marketing is the fact that we can split tests, we can fail, we can learn, and talk about those lessons versus if you're a heart surgeon, I don't want to hear about how you failed in a surgery. Keep that just like bottled up. So I say that in the spirit of how can we learn together in an experience you had that didn't work out?
Yeah, this is a great question. Oh man, I have a brother who's a doctor, and he definitely doesn't want to talk about his fails. Um, yeah, so we do a ton of A/B testing, a ton across our website, emails, all sorts of things, and I am constantly surprised by what I get wrong. But I love to be wrong. One that I'm thinking about recently, a few months ago, was around um, a visual representation of community, right? So like a new branding angle we were trying out. And the thing that I love about this is that my CEO and I were totally divided, right? Like I was like, I think we want a really clean design. I think we want to kind of make a metaphor out of this. And she was really drawn to this design that was like a ton of people, really vibrant. As a writer, I was like, let's let the message stand for itself. And she was like, we need to like catch people's attention and be like really bold. And I was so confident, Andrew. I was like, no, let's peel it back. Boy, did I lose, right? And she's very gracious about it. But what I took away from that is one, there is this human element to community that's really important to represent, right? Like the other design had like tons of people and faces and just felt really alive. That's really important to represent.
Mhm.
And also that you have to evoke a feeling, right? Which as a marketer, we all know, but I had kind of gotten lost in the weeds of like the copy when it's like it's not about just the copy and the functionality. It's like you have to make somebody feel something before they're
Mhm.
even going to read it. So it was a good reminder to me of that point.
So the last question today is, could you share what your best purchase was for under $100, either personally or professionally, in the last 6 months, and why?
Yes. It's a little, I think it's a tiny bit over 100 now, but I think I got it on
That's
sale.
okay. Inflation's hurting
Okay.
everyone.
Yeah. I love coffee.
Mhm.
I hate lukewarm coffee. I need my coffee to burn my mouth to enjoy every sip of it. I am also a mom to a toddler. Any moms out there know it's hard to get a hot cup of coffee. And so this is actually a gift. My husband got me a self-heating coffee mug called an
Wow.
Ember. It has changed the game, both in terms of my happiness, my productivity. And so, to anybody out there who also cannot stand the second their coffee gets just a little bit lukewarm, well worth the $100 investment. And I will never use another mug. I travel with it, as like sad as that is. I pack a mug and a charger into my suitcase, but it's life changing.
I love that. I forgot my mug, so I'm drinking out of just like a this little thing. And so, but I haven't sipped this in a little bit, but I'm sure it's going to be cold. And then you're
Yeah.
going to be at that point of, do I get a new cup of coffee? Do I just toughen it out? Do I microwave it and it's not going to taste the
Oh, the
same? So
microwave coffee. Yeah.
that's
You'll
a
never
very
microwave
great,
it again. Check it out.
amazing.
Good Christmas gift too. I'm not, this is not a paid sponsorship, but if Ember wants to send me a new mug, I will gladly have a backup.
This could also be your online community
Oh,
of the future.
that's true. We bring together cold coffee haters to
Exactly.
we'll figure it out. I love that.
Well, Jane, it was so great to be speaking with you today. And as just a last note, can you share any social media handles, links, ways to get in contact with you? Would love to end the show with that.
Yeah. So at Mighty Networks, great. That's the company. You can find us there. In Mighty Community, you can DM me, Jane Stecyk. Look me up. I am there. You can send me a DM. And I am also on Twitter. I gotta be honest with you. I'm spending less time on social media. If you want to talk to me, probably just shoot me a LinkedIn. I'm there, Jane Stecyk. But I have found myself spending more and more time off of social and in communities, which is probably inevitable and makes sense given the conversation we just had.
Perfect, Jane. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was fun.